Hello lovelies, how are you all? I hope you're well. I hope you're better than me. I'm in bed. Yeah, I'm having a lie-in. No, not quite. I've been proper poorly the last couple of days. Just a quickie today. I just wanted to fill you in because also, just in terms of the next couple of weeks, we just have to see how things go. Sorry, there's probably going to be lots of slugs of water too. Yeah, darn pesky cold. I'll just catch you up actually the last couple of days or so. And no, I'm not getting up today. I'm having a day. Well, I'll get up. I'll sort of get up, but I'll come back to bed if I want to. I'm not making any sense, am I? Stupid cold. And that's all it was. It's just a cold. You know, I tested for COVID. I kept testing negative. It was just a cold. But it was lingering. And I think just running me down, and therefore opened me up to a secondary infection. And that's what happened. Yeah, I woke up in the wee hours of... Was it Friday night, Saturday morning? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Woke up, pain in my armpit and sort of going around behind my scapula. I was wheezing, gurgling, and I thought, oh, phooey. I know what this is. This is lung infection. I'm pretty sure. I'm being a good little nursey, ex-nursey. I thought, right, okay. I mean, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. You can't do much about anything at 3 o'clock in the morning, can you? But I thought, right, I'm going to do a full workup on myself. I'm going to take a full history. Sorry, if that happens too much, I'm just going to stop and we'll all just remain in the dark about things. But yeah, so I checked my blood pressure. I've got my old sphygmomanometer from my nursing days, which is the hand. But I'm doing that because I'm pumping up the cuff, and then you listen onto your brachial with your stethoscope. So my blood pressure was up a bit, well, up a lot, very high in fact. Actually, more of that in a second, because I'm going to talk about food in a second too, and hopefully some future videos. But yeah, blood pressure was high, really high. Heart rate was quite high. Respiratory rate a bit higher than usual. Temperature only slightly high for me. Still within normal range. So this is why it's quite useful when you know your base range, when you know what's normal for you. Because my normal in terms of body temperature is quite low. So I can have a bit of an elevation in body temperature, and people, or you know, in the past I've been in hospital, I've had to explain it. It's like, actually that's high for me, but they're like, oh, it's perfectly normal. Yeah, but it's high for me. So I normally sit around 35.8, which is low. So my temperature is 37. That's 1.2 higher than norm for me. Anyway. Long story short, I never get to the end quickly enough, do I? For some people I don't. Anyway, the main thing was this horrible, really loud wheeze, really loud gurgle and coughing, and I couldn't lie flat, sleeping, sitting up. It's so difficult to sleep sitting up, isn't it? Which is, sorry, I should have said, excuse my dishevelled state. I ain't putting a face on anymore. Yeah, it's really hard to sleep sitting up. So that's why I'm saying to myself, if I get up, like yesterday, I was awake by about 6. And I thought, oh, I'll get up and do my emails and things like that. And then by about 9, just AM, this was, I just felt utterly wiped out. So I came back to bed and I went straight to sleep. And slept for about 2 or 3 hours, then woke up lunchtime-ish. Okay, let's eat, next round of drugs. Anyway, back to that night. So yeah, I was pretty sure that the picture meant secondary infection in the lung. Oh, fiddlesticks, because of course I was thinking this is exactly what happened 3 years ago. And it is 3 years ago, round about now. I had a cold all through the October. By the end of October, pardon me, I was just starting to get a bit of a cough. And then, yeah, by the end of January I was in hospital. Via A&E, via resus, really poorly. But back then, I can't remember. It was impossible to get a doctor's appointment. It was just impossible. I was ringing on an almost daily basis for 2.5 months. I was trying. I know at the time a few people said to me, "You're stupid, you should have gone to the doctor." They called me stupid for being ill. Should have gone to the doctor. And it's like, I'm trying, I'm ringing every day pretty much. Anyway, this time, obviously, I'm going to try my hardest to get an appointment. It's the weekend, can't do anything about it. Okay, first thing Monday. And it's weird, my doctor's thing has changed. And I think in some ways it's good, some ways it's not so good. It used to be that you had to ring at 8 o'clock, or lines opened at 8 a.m. Ring any time after 8 a.m. But unless you ring at 8 o'clock on the dot, you don't stand a chance of getting an appointment. And the number of times I used to call, and it would be 7:58. You call and say, "Lines are not open yet, redial. Our lines are not open yet, redial. Good morning, Dodo Surgery. You are number 79th in the queue." What? So it's like literally dialing every few seconds around the 8 o'clock mark, so that bang, when it's 8 o'clock and the line's open, you get through and you think, yay! And then you hear that you're already 79th in the queue. So one can only imagine literally hundreds of people in my area all doing exactly the same thing with their phone, trying to get through, bang on 8 o'clock. And so it was just impossible to get an appointment. Whereas now, it's changed. It seems to be all online, which I didn't look at. They must still have a phone thing. I rang the old number and it directed me to the website. It said it's all online booking. But what if you haven't got online access? What if you don't, because in my neighbourhood, there are areas around here that are really, really poor. I mean, like below poverty. I'm imagining there's quite a few households around here who do not have the internet and who do not have devices to be able to use the internet. That's one thing. But, I was thinking about, say, Auntie Teapot. She didn't have any devices. How's someone like her going to? And of course, in that scenario, I would do it for her, but it's removing independence, isn't it? If she needs someone else to do it for her, or just the whole privacy thing. She might want to do it anyway. It's online now, but it's like it's like sitting an exam. This feels like what I've done for the last few weeks is paperwork and exams. Oh, because okay, the first bit was easy. Name, date of birth. That's easy. I know all that stuff. I know it off by heart. I'm really good at that. But then it's like, why do you want to see a doctor? And then there's all sorts of different things you can choose from. Lower back pain, coughing, wheezing, tight chest. It's all sorts, all manner. Swollen ankle. But the thing was, for me, I'm concerned about my blood pressure. I've been concerned about that for a while anyway. So I want to talk about the food thing in a second. But it only lets you pick one. So, and I didn't realise this. I kind of quickly realised it. And then if I went back and picked something else, that's how I realised. You pick something and everything else gets wiped out and it just focuses on that one thing and then gives you another drop down to talk about it specifically. And I was thinking, but you might have four, you might have four really strong symptoms which seem not, on the surface of things, they might not necessarily seem interconnected. You might have, for example, you might have lower back pain and dizziness or forgetfulness or something going on, brain. Now that could actually be a UTI. It could be the lower back pain is coming from your kidneys and that brain fog is coming from, the two are linked. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is you might have a few symptoms that you want to, anyway, it turns out no, you can only write one thing down. So I opted for the box that said wheezing because God, it was so loud. Kept awake by my own wheeze. But then when I clicked on wheezing, then the next menu that came up said shortness of breath. I was like, no, I don't have any shortness of breath. I don't have any shortness of breath. I just have this horrible wheeze that's leading then into these coughing fits which are uncontrollable and which leave me, then I'm gasping for breath. It wouldn't let me do it. So I clicked on, wheezing, whatever. And then it took me to another box. It's trying to basically say, go to hospital. This isn't a GP thing. And I was thinking, yes, of course it's a GP thing, because there are people out in the community with asthma, for example. They don't need to go to hospital every time they need, it might be an adjustment in medication or whatever. Yeah, I feel like this GP surgery really doesn't want patients. Anyway, I overrode that and it said, you are doing this against medical advice. And I thought, well, I'm not really getting any medical advice from you, am I? I'm just hearing from you that you don't want to see me, you want me to go to hospital, so I'm not your problem. This is not a hospital issue. If I go to A&E, I'll be sitting in A&E for 12 hours or more, not being seen. I will be exposed to all the other germs in A&E. God knows what anyone's there with. Plus, anyone else who's in A&E, vulnerable, will be exposed to my germs, even though I'll put my mask on. Anyway, the good thing was, in the next bit, I'm getting to it, don't worry, I'm having a Ronnie Corb at the moment. I'm allowed to have a Ronnie Corb moment when I'm sitting in bed telling stories. I carried on and that it said, explain the symptoms, blah, blah, blah. So there were a couple of boxes which I can now I can now write in and describe things. Good, because the thing about health is it's not a tick box exercise. It's like you need to know what the human experience is. Anyway, the very last box, and this was the cincher, and this is why I'm telling you about it. It said, are you particularly anxious about anything? Do you have a particular concern with this matter? Do you have an expected outcome from an appointment? Words to that effect. There were sort of 3 or 4 little questions. Do you have a particular concern or whatever? And that was the bit that I could fill in to say, look, this is exactly the picture I had 3 years ago. I was calling the surgery to try and get an appointment every single day for pretty much 2.5 months. Couldn't get an appointment. Eventually got an appointment, but it was over the phone. I was never examined. No one ever listened to my chest, which is ridiculous. Given a course of antibiotics for 1 week, didn't work. I came back to you. I got a second week, but before the second week was out, I ended up at Lewisham A&E in resus, sat through the floor, unviable. Excuse me. And I said, please, this time do not leave me hanging for 2.5 months while this infection takes hold and gets so bad that it requires a week of aggressive treatment in hospital. I think someone must have read that. I mean, I was polite. Obviously, I'm always polite with these things. But I thought, yeah, I want you to know that pretty much exactly 3 years ago, this is the same picture, and you would not see me. And I ended up, not only was it the fact that I ended up in hospital for a week, but it took me months, and I don't think I've ever properly recovered, honestly, because 4 or 5 months after coming out of hospital, I then got COVID really horribly. And this sort of post-viral fatigue, this permanent exhaustion. I've been feeling exhausted since 2020. It's like, I can't remember a day when I haven't felt exhausted. Anyway, so the doctor saw me. Yay! Got so much for a quickie. We're just chatting. We're just mates chatting. You've just come to visit. You've brought grapes. Don't bring anything. Yeah, so it was so nice to see an actual physical doctor. And obviously she listened, but thing is, I said, I've done, so when I did that initial, I did my own triage in bed in the middle of the night, because it was the weekend. I have been monitoring myself. I've been listening to my chest every day, more than once. And I was saying to the doctor, I said, yeah, I've got good air entry sounds. It's expiratory wheeze. It's right at the end of the expiratory breath. There's wheeze and crackle and da-da-da, and it's particularly in the upper right lobe. And it's like, have you been examining yourself? Yes, I have. So yeah, she's just, it's bog standard treatment. It's bog standard treatment. Oral steroids, inhaled steroids, antibiotics, a bit of pain relief. It's absolutely bog standard stuff. So, hopefully it'll get on with doing the job of clearing this up before it gets worse, before it really takes hold. And it will be, hopefully, a bit of in a few weeks' time, a non-story. It's only a story at the moment because it's just really bad timing, isn't it? I've got quite a lot on my plate at the moment. There's a bit of, I don't know how to put it, there's a bit of stress going on with this house move. There's a bit of stress involved. Some of it to do with this place, not it's more to do with the next place. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. It just has to be dealt with. It's just stuff you have to face head on and deal with. I mean, I hope everything is still, fingers crossed, everything's still moving ahead. Can't take anything for granted, of course, but yeah, it's the thing for the last couple of days. Sorry, what I should have said. So I had the weekend feeling really, really rough. Sorry, excuse me, before seeing the doctor. This is much better now, much better. I didn't do anything all weekend. But anyway, saw the doctor, and it's been 4 days since. So I've had 4 days of drugs. It's been 6 days now of really hardly doing anything at all. 4 days, pretty much nothing. Coming back to bed, sleeping, all that. But yesterday, this is what I'm going to try today, is yesterday, up and dressed and trying to behave like a normal working person. Pardon me. I don't know if 4 days off is enough. It's a really tricky balancing act, isn't it? It's always a tricky balancing act between, taking enough time. Because I know what probably most of you are going to say, like, just have a whole week off, rest and recover. But I don't think a week off would be enough. I think going on, not just last time, ending up in hospital, but other, like say after COVID, I could take 2 months off completely and I still wouldn't be properly recovered. And the fact is, I can't afford to take that much time off. I just can't. There's no backup. There's no one else to do the things that need doing about the move, and you know what I mean. So anyway, I'm going to I have had it really easy for a few days, and now I'm just going to see if I can start just gently getting back to work a bit. So this has been a bit all over the place, hasn't it? I've got my breakfast ready. I'm just going to have a whole bowl of blueberries for breakfast. How lovely. And then starting on, I've had a couple of my meds already. That's good. I made the doctor laugh, I'll just tell you. So I'm using, I'm sure, tons of you will know them, just probably those of you with kids with asthma, you'll be very familiar with the little inhalers. There's the brown one, the preventer, and then the blue one, the reliever. So I've got both. This is actually left from last time, and it was still in date, didn't throw it away, and I'd started self-medicating with this about 2 weeks ago anyway, as the respiratory consultant said I was allowed to do, because that episode that started 3 years ago, I wasn't fully discharged from them until, excuse me, it was right at the end of 22, so it was a couple of years ago. So I was discharged with 2 of these, and under my own recognizance. Anyway, back to with the doctor. She said, I'm gonna prescribe you the blue one as well, the reliever. She said, and I'm going to prescribe a spacer. And I said, I'm not 6. She laughed, because spacers, and this takes me back to my student nurse days, because the branch of nursing, the branch of medicine I went into, it wasn't dealing with respiratory. However, where I trained, it was very much, there's a lot of respiratory there. A poor area, poverty, respiratory illnesses. Anyway, spacers it's for kids when they very first get an inhaler and they don't have that kind of, that coordination and control to be able to squeeze out the dose and have the beginnings of that big in-breath. So that big in-breath keeps going on after the dose is being given. So you keep drawing it in, drawing it down, right into your lungs. So they have, it's like a sort of a plastic tube, about yay diameter. Smaller ones for smaller. You can get them right down for babies, because of course you can't coordinate a baby. You can't say, now take a big breath into a baby. So it's basically a plastic tube. The inhaler slots in tightly on one end, and on the other end there's a little mask. So, for instance, with babies, the mask, and it goes right over their nose and mouth. So you squeeze it, and the medicine therefore is in that chamber, and you can hold the mask on. So rather than getting it all in one breath, if they breathe out in and out a few times, it makes sure that all that drug gets used up. Essentially, that's what it does. So I think of a spacer as something that we give to kids when they first get diagnosed with a respiratory issue that needs the help of an inhaler. So when she said, I'm going to prescribe a spacer, and I said, I'm not 6, she laughed her head off. And actually at the end of the consultation, she said, thank you for making me laugh. I was like, huh? She said, about the spacer, about you not being 6. But then I got to the chemist. I came home from the surgery. I'd had an afternoon appointment. By the time I got home, I was just so tired. I wasn't even thinking straight because I haven't slept. It's impossible to sleep with the coughing and with sitting up and what have you. Anyway, I got home and I suddenly thought, oh, you Dilbury. I was supposed to go to the chemist on my way home to go and collect the prescription. So I went back out. I hadn't quite got it ready anyway. So I sat in the corner of the chemist. They've got some seating. Of course, I've got my mask on. And there's a big locker system for like click and collect. It's Boots. So I guess people who buy stuff online, but rather than have it delivered home, you have it delivered to a local branch of Boots, and then you can pick it up on your way home from work, I guess. Anyway, big locker. I was leaning against it and the locker was cool on my skin. I started to doze off. Anyway, the pharmacist came out and she's got a box with, all my bits and pieces in. And she started to go through everything, and then she started talking about the spacer. And she said, we haven't got any in this stock, but I'm going to have to order one. We'll have it here for you tomorrow. And I looked at all the items and I suddenly thought, I can't afford it. Don't worry about it. I can't afford it because, of course, that morning I had taken out my 35 quid. Yeah, it was that morning, 35 quid, my weekly money allowance. Sorry, adult brain, never mind. Yeah, my weekly allowance is 35 quid. So I'd taken it out that morning and I'd nicked £3 of it straight away to top up my bus pass because the doctor's surgery is a bus ride away. And I think I had something like 85 pence left on my bus pass, and it's 175 each way. It's 175 now. If I can do it all in an hour, it will be 175. But I knew it would be more than an hour because surgeries always run late, don't they? So I needed £3.50. Anyway, I put £3 on my Oyster card, which meant I had £32 in my purse. And every item in a prescription, each individual item costs £10. I say £10, it's £9, is it £9.90? It's not quite £10, but it's as near as damn it. So I knew that the 3 different drugs, that's 30 quid. The spacer's going to make it 40. I haven't got 40 quid, I've only got 32. What am I going to put back out of that lot? I'm going to say no to the spacer because it's not the drug. Give me the drugs, I want the drugs. So, so I paid for my drugs and I said, don't worry about the spacer. I think I know my technique is good enough to deliver the drug. And obviously this was something that goes back to that last time, and then I was under a respiratory team for ages and I had to show them my technique. So, yeah, I didn't buy the spacer. It still makes me chuckle to think she thought that I should have it. That's something that friends overseas might not realise about the UK, that I have to pay for my medicine. The NHS is Actually, I haven't caught up on what happened in the budget in terms of what's been decided for the NHS, but I adore the NHS, of course I do. I think it's amazing that I can go to the doctor for free. I do not have to pay to see a doctor. That's great. All of us can go and see a doctor whenever, well, not quite whenever we want, but in theory, whenever we want, we can go and see a doctor and it's free. I can go into A&E, I can go into an accident and emergency department, it's free. And if they admit me, if I've broken my leg and I need to have my leg put back together, even if it's the most complex surgery with pins and bolts and goodness knows what, it's free. We don't have insurance, we don't have to, what I mean is we don't have specific medical insurance, we pay something that's called national insurance. So everybody who's working, even me now with my lowly amount of money that I earn, I pay national insurance to support the NHS, you know, it goes into that system. So yes, I can see my doctor for free, but my medicine isn't free. And so, for instance, things like, I just realised I haven't even got my glasses on this morning. My optician, that's not free. For me, it's not. The dentist, it's not free. I can't see a dentist unless I pay up the money. I can't have treatment unless I pay up. If I was on any kind of benefits, so if I was on the dole, unemployment benefit, if I was on some kind of disability benefit, yeah, basically if I was on any kind of benefits, then I can have optician work for free, I can have free glasses, free lenses, I can go to the dentist and that's all free, and I get all my drugs, all my prescription, everything is free if you're on the dole. However, if you work, even if you only earn peanuts, you have to pay. I did. There's a sort of a certificate of help. You can apply for a bit of help with your NHS costs, like your dentist and optician. You can apply for help if you have an income, but it's low. And I did do that a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago now. So I had to send them my accounts. And they worked out my income. They worked out my income was £405 per month. And then at £405 a month, I don't qualify for any help. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy that I'm like, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so it's just an interesting point for friends overseas about our NHS, because I don't think that's something people realise, is that yeah, we do pay for drugs. If this isn't the case for me, because this is obviously, I hope, jolly well hope, this is all going to be a one-off little glitch. But if I needed to take medicines regularly, if there was something I was having to take every single, blood pressure, that's what I was going to talk about. I've got something here to remind me. If I was going to be taking I think it works out at one different medicine at least every 3 weeks. Then there is a prepaid certificate in the UK. Sharing this for anyone who is new to taking medicine and paying for it, because for years I don't have prescriptions. I've not needed anything, but I'm getting to that age now where suddenly it might be like, oh, you might need a regular prescription of something. This prepaid certificate is for 1 year, and I think it costs about 140 quid. So it's slightly over £10 a month. I think it was something like, I think it works out at about £12 a month. So if you've got more than one item per month, then it's worth it. It makes it financially worth it. So if you had, because if you were buying 2 things every month, that's 20 quid a month. 12 months of the year, it's 240. So yeah, 140 for the prepaid certificate is well worth it. But for me, this is a one-off. I sincerely hope it's a one-off. And yeah, let's hope. Now, what's the time? Just keep half an hour. Oh God, I've been yapping. I knew this would happen. I'm cosy. I'm kind of cosy and comfy and slow. That's what I need. So, the last video you saw was I'd done some shopping, and I was talking about I'm going to make this root soup. That video, well, for any of those of you who are eagle-eyed, did I show a receipt? I'm sure I must have shown a receipt in that video. People seem to want to see the receipts when it's a shopping video. Somehow I've got to prove how much it cost, even though most of you are British and shop in Lidl and know the prices. Anyway, you will have spotted the date on that receipt as being something like, was it about the 10th or the 11th of October? I'd filmed it a couple of weeks ago, getting off, it's 3 weeks ago. And thank goodness, because I haven't done any filming for about 9 days now. Just haven't felt up to it. Just energy, and then obviously the last few days in particular, ever since this infection took hold. Anyway, so I'm glad that those two. So the way, sorry, I need someone to keep me on track today. It's a bit, I've been in bed too much. I normally try to have 5 or 6 videos in the can, and that's going to cover me for about 2 weeks. I like to have 5 or 6 in the can because that means then if there's a bit of an urgent situation going on in any way, I can attend to other stuff, but still know that I've got work that I can put out because this is my income. YouTube is the vast majority of my income. Yeah, someone was asking me about that recently. I was talking about I live on 500 a month, but my average income is about 700, and that's how I'm able to save a couple of £100 every month and end up with 2.5 grand in savings each year. And this person about the 700, they said yes, but is that including your YouTube income? And I thought, well, yeah. I mean, I didn't have to think about that. Yeah, of course it is. And I thought to myself, I should have asked the person actually, you know, in a nice way. I don't mean any of this I'm not being snippy, but if that 700 wasn't including my YouTube, move my YouTube up a bit, what do they think that £700 came from? Where do they think that money comes from? Because it's not, you know, I don't have a pension or anything like that. Yeah, anyway, how did we get onto that? Oh yeah, so having videos in the can so that I've always got that, there's always something I can put out and therefore earn my income, even if I have to be off attending to something else. So for example, at the end of August and beginning of September, most of those videos you saw, I'd got those in the can and ready well before then, because it was around that time when I was out and about house hunting and, you know, getting the flat stage and all that kind of chaos was going on. And I knew that I wouldn't want to be thinking about filming at the same time as actually being out and about looking for a home and all that. Anyway, so I've lost my train of thought again. Oh yeah, so coming back to things, so you'll see me cooking and chatting it's just cooking and chatting, chatting and chopping in the kitchen, that'll be tomorrow, you'll see that. This one, so I'm just sort of seeing how this goes, so see how I feel just doing a quiet chatting video. And more's the point, see how I feel about now going and editing this and uploading it and doing the thumb and doing all the other extraneous stuff. Am I feeling up to it? Hopefully I am, but part of the reason for doing this one today was that if I'm not really feeling up to it, then we'll know after tomorrow's cooking video, we'll know if there's a gap of a week or two without a video, we'll know why. I just feel lousy. I can always communicate in the community section, can't I? But the other videos I've got lined up that I was all ready to start filming, you know, more than a week ago. I'm just thinking, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 of them are quite quiet, chatting ones. And just doing sitting down. I've got one on decluttering, my decluttering manifesto, and then the follow-up to that is going to be in 2 parts, that one, because the follow-up is going to be some examples, but also it's going to be about maintaining the declutter and getting systems and organisation in place so that hopefully you don't get back into such a terrible state ever again. So systems, and yeah, looking forward to that. And it's not scripted as such, I don't script anything, but I've got, I can see my clipboard is sitting over there. It's been sitting over there for days waiting. It's all on my clipboard. There's all these bullet points, so I don't forget anything. And I've got a book out from the shelf. It's one of my books because there's a picture in it of a storage solution that I want to share because it's delightful and pretty. Anyway, so that's 2. And then I'm going to do a separate video about Swedish death cleaning because I've got a bit of a sort out job to do for myself, and it includes letting go of a couple of items that are hand-me-downs that I might struggle with, and I thought it's the perfect opportunity to talk about Swedish death cleaning because it's very different from just decluttering. Swedish death cleaning is quite different, even though it does involve decluttering. That's just one part of it. So we're going to have a nice kind of tranche of decluttering, death cleaning, organising, maintaining the organisation. Also a video, because it's something I get asked about quite a lot, is this whole thing, and I get it. I mean, I even have, you know, friends, my IRL friends in real life. You're all friends, but, you know, not actually in my living room with me. Yeah, some even in real life friends say that with savings, how on earth do you manage to save so much money? How on earth do you manage to, you know, with this whole talk of this move, are you talking in terms of thousands and thousands to carry forward into your next home for your do-up fund? How on earth can you have that when you have so little coming in? So that's another one I'm going to address. And then, yeah, and a recipe. I'm sitting here with a pot of stock in my hand. Oh, my intercostals are aching. Yeah, I'm going to do another homemade versus shop recipe in terms of costing. Anyway, and partly to do with that, literally, like I said, I've got my stock here. So this is the stock I use. Randomly, this is really random. I've had 3 pots of stock sent to me in the last 3 weeks or so from different people. It's completely random. It's just the most random. Thank you for random gifts. Right. Also, just a quick word on gifts, just to say very quickly, I don't need anything. You hear me? I don't need anything. I'm fine. I have absolutely everything I need here. I have all the vitamins and supplements I could possibly need. I'm stocked up. I stock up there are certain vitamins I take all through the year, and then generally about September or so, end of September, I start, like for instance with my vitamin C, I go a slightly higher strength for winter, so I go to 1,000, is it milligrams, micrograms, I can't remember, but it's 1,000 I go to for winter. In the summer I drop down to 500, so I have high strength vitamin C. I start taking echinacea. I do all of that anyway. I do not need anything sending to me by way of that. Please, please, please. I know how lovely you are. I know you're all lovely, and I know you all want to, not all, but I know there will be some of you who think, oh, I want to send Vivi a little something, you know, a little get well. Please don't. I don't need anything. Please, please, please don't send anything. Do not send chocolate. That's a definite no-no. I love it. Of course I love chocolate, but actually at the beginning of September, I had decided to cut all sugar out of my diet. We're going to have a little wandering natter now. I don't have a huge amount of sugar in my diet anyway. So for example, I don't have tea or coffee, so I don't take sugar in hot drinks. I like a hot chocolate every now and again, but it's really a once in a blue moon type treat. I do like honey, and on the occasions when I have porridge, I do like coconut blossom sugar on my porridge. So, like I said, I don't think there's ever been a huge amount of sugar in my diet. I certainly don't eat cakes and biscuits, other than as a, you know, rarity. I might eat, you know, shortbread at Christmas. Shortbread at Christmas is lovely. This summer, if you remember, for my birthday, I bought myself that bag of Madeleines. I do love a Madeleine, but generally speaking, I'm just trying to think of the last time I bought biscuits. I'm thinking of those shortbreads, because that's the lovely shortbreads that Richard makes. I can't remember the last time I bought packets of biscuits. So anyway, like I was trying to say, I think in general the sugar in my diet is quite low, but I just thought, look, as I'm getting older, and I don't mean, oh, I'm old. I don't mean that at all. I just mean that, you know, things like, and this all started actually before my cold started, but I've been thinking about it anyway in terms of it feels like everything takes longer to recover from as I'm getting older. So, you know, even say quite a physical day, and I think that might have been what it was. I think it might have been after one of my days of house hunting, and I'd been out and I'd been on the go all day, and it had really wiped me out and hurt. I was hurting, like physically hurting in all my joints, and the next day I really, really, really felt it. So it's just that thing of, well, why wouldn't I look at ways to improve my health? You know, I don't really want to go on that one too much, but yeah, cut out all the sugar. So I've been doing really well with that, cold turkey, and just really careful reading of labels as well. So I've got some nice tomato ketchup, but of course that's got sugar in it, so okay, do without tomato ketchup. And again, it's not something I have often, but yeah. And then I got those two lovely parcels, and they both had bits of chocolate in. Thank you, lovelies, thank you. But yeah, I enjoyed quite a bit of it, and then this was getting worse and worse and worse. So I've put all of that away. Because chocolate and having a coffee, they don't go, it's too mucus forming. But yes, that's what I mean. So I genuinely mean that to people. Please, I don't need anything. Don't send anything. I'm fine. I will be fine. It's just a cold. It's just a cold with a secondary lung infection. That's all. But yeah, sugar and me, we are parting company. Much as I love chocolate, and I'm not saying never, ever, ever in the future. I might have the occasional hot chocolate, because I do like it. But in terms of, you know, eating bars of chocolate and that sort of thing, no, that's all got to go. And the other thing I thought about because of this, my blood pressure's been quite high. And it's been quite high for some time. And I think this doctor might have finally listened to me. What I found is when I'm in a medical setting and I say to them, I say, look, my blood pressure's high, or, you know, obviously that time when I was in hospital, my blood pressure was through the roof. Things were going really, really wrong. But in subsequent checkups, I've had high blood pressure, and they say, oh, it's just because you're just feeling a bit of stress because you've come into the surgery, or you've come into clinic. Or I had it done by Boots the other day, because now I do my own blood pressure at home, like I said, with my lovely old sphygmomanometer. It's very gentle. I'd gone into Boots for not any prescription stuff, something completely different. She said, oh, we're doing blood pressures today. Do you want your blood pressure done? So I said, yeah, I might as well. I'm here. Let's do it. She did it on her machine, and it was really high. And she said, oh, it's probably just because you're stressed at having it done. And I'm getting a bit cross about this, actually. I feel a bit grumpy about it, because for 3 years now, every time I've had a high blood pressure reading from anyone, any health professional, they've brushed it off as being, oh, you're probably a bit stressed because it's the environment. And I've said very clearly on each of those occasions, I'm not stressed by this environment. I work in this environment. You know, I was a nurse. This environment does not stress me. You telling me I'm stressed is now getting me stressed. Anyway, beside the point. The point is, when I'm at home on my own, do my own blood pressure checks, they're high. It's always high. You need to start listening to me about this, because I don't want to end up having a stroke or whatever. So the other thing I'm looking at in my diet is salt, because I think probably most people are aware of the connection between hypertension and a high salt intake. Excuse me. So a healthy adult, we want to keep our salt intake below 6 grams per day. And I was thinking, I bet mine's got to be well below 6. So I was just thinking about the salt in connection with the blood pressure, and thinking, could we say with the blood pressure, is there anything I can do right now for myself before I see a doctor? Is there anything I can do for myself to help myself, before I see a doctor, and B, before, I need to rely on drugs. Not that there's anything wrong with using drugs to help with blood pressure, if that's what you need. And I'm not giving anybody medical advice right now. If you are taking drugs to help with your blood pressure, keep taking them. This is I'm just talking about salt for me. Have I looked at that? Is it something that I can look at? Is it something that would help before I get to see a doctor about my blood pressure? I'm going to see someone about my blood pressure. So I started looking at a few things. Remember, I was just saying a second ago about I'm going to do another homemade versus shop-bought soup recipe to look at the cost, the difference in... I've costed it out. How much will it cost me to make it? How much does it cost to buy it from the shop? And I bought a tin of soup to use as my shop-bought example. So I was looking at the salt on that, and I thought, crikey, it is quite high. It was something like... I can't remember it off the top of my head. I'm not even going to try to remember. We'll come to it when I come to make the video. But I did think, wow, that's... So just a little tin of soup, that tin, it would be something like, I think it was like about a third of one's daily salt intake in just that one tin of soup. So then it started me thinking about my soups that I make. So just to say again, so this is the one I use. It's the reduced salt one. And people have often said to me when I do a cooking video, you didn't add any salt or pepper. Why don't you need to add salt and pepper? No, I don't. Don't add salt to my food. And that's why I was thinking my salt intake is probably okay. Right, I'm just looking at, I am going to wrap up soon. Sorry, I've come a bit on one today. I need the company. Yeah, that I was quite sure that my salt intake would be quite low because I don't add salt to any of my food, apart from if I have a bag of chips at the beach. I like salt and vinegar on my chips. So this one, I'll just quickly show you, because like I said, I've been sent 3 of these. It's just such a random thing to receive in the post. These aren't the reduced versions. These are not the ones I use, but it's the same company. It's really good quality stock. Thank you to everyone who has sent me one. Please don't anybody send me any more stock. I don't need any stock. Thank you. Honestly, to everybody, please, nobody send anything. I don't need anything. Thank you. This talks about the salt amounts in a 250 mils of it made up. And I was thinking, well, actually, I make a litre of stock to make soup, and that usually gives me 4 portions. So actually, this is equivalent of what is in 1 portion of my soup, or 1 portion of, if I make, say, bean stew, it would be 1.37 grams. So let's call it 1.4, just so it's easier to hear. 1.4. So 2.85. It's, hang on, what did I say for the day? 6. So 3, so 1.5. So it's nearly 25% of my daily intake of salt in 1 bowl of soup. In other words, a bowl of soup at lunchtime and a bowl of fasolada in the evening would give me 2.8, would give me nearly half. In other words, if I then with my soup was to have a piece of bread that's got some butter on it, bread has a bit of salt in it, the butter's got a bit of salt in it, that's going to nudge it up. If say I have with my fasolada, if I have a sprinkling of feta cheese is salty cheese, all cheese has got salt in it, that's going to take my salt up. Even though I'm having what looks at first glance like really healthy food, it could still quite easily, just those 2 meals, get me right to the top of my salt allowance for the day. And that's without, right, that's the reduced salt one, and me not adding any salt as I cook. This one, the bowl, so the same equivalent, the 250 mils of it made up, it's 2.4 grams. It's huge. So my bowl of soup at lunchtime and my bowl of fasolada in the evening, whereas this one would get me to, what did I just say, about half of my allowance for the day. 4.8, getting on for 5 out of 6 grams. That's 5/6 of the way. It's more than 3/4 of a day's allowance of salt in that. So in other words, that little bit of feta, or at lunchtime, that 1 small piece of bread with butter on it with the soup and the feta on it, would take me over my salt allowance for the day. Coming back to that point of what seemed like 2 relatively healthy meals, a vegetable soup of some description, and then a vegetable and bean stew hot pot thing in the evening, and neither meal having any salt added while I'm cooking. So I'm cooking the soup, I'm not adding any extra salt. I'm cooking the bean stew, I'm not adding any extra salt. 0 addition of salt during the cooking, 0 addition of salt at the table, and I'm still going to be maxing out my salt for the day. It's quite shocking actually, isn't it? Yeah, so that's why we need to read these things. So if I use this, I'm going to have to use it really sparingly. That's very high salt. It's too high for comfort. I prefer the reduced salt and not adding salt during the cooking or at the table. And it just kind of made me think that I should, just read the small print a bit more. I think we bounce along most of our lives, don't we? Like, I get away with blue murder, I do, in terms of what I eat. When I think of what I used to eat in my teens and 20s, and just didn't care. It was just, hoovering stuff up, get food on board, because I'm too busy having fun and doing doing stuff. Excuse me. Actually, this is really good today. A couple of days ago, I tried to make a phone call and I couldn't do it. Every time I tried to speak, I was coughing. This has all been a good test today. It's definitely worth looking at the small print on our packets and boxes. And actually, like I said, I wasn't too worried, because I don't, in terms of processed food, I don't tend to buy food in packets. I tend to buy vegetables and make them into things. But that doesn't mean I should be complacent, because I do use things like the stock and I've got that tin of soup now, but just even things like the tinned stuff. I never buy tinned with all my tinned beans and things like that. They're always in water. They're not in brine. They're not in salted water. But yeah, it's just food for thought, isn't it? That even though one might think one has quite a healthy diet, that it's possible that there are areas that can be improved. And look, in terms of salty snacks, God, blimmin' love them. That's one of the things that I like about Christmas is salted nuts. Salted nuts, twiglets like Marmite in a snack, aren't they? Things like Marmite on toast. I love Marmite on toast when I'm feeling a bit bleh. Like in the last couple of days, I've had Marmite on toast a couple of times just because I felt too bleh to be in the kitchen doing anything. And it's so yummy and comforting. But wow, Marmite, it's all salt, isn't it? It's yeast and salt. So yeah, I think in future, I love crisps, but I don't buy them. I don't buy them because I love them. There's a rationale to that. If I buy them, I'm just going to muller them. So I don't. And if someone ever, Richard and Paul can attest to this, when they get one of those nice big share bags out and they tip it into a bowl and bring it into the room when we're having drinks, if we have a glass of wine in the evening, they bring those nibbles out and they go, do you want that? And I will say, no thank you. Because if I have one crisp, that's it. I'm going to beat the pair of them up to that unconscious so I can just keep that whole bowl all to myself. So yeah, don't do, as a rule, try not to do crisps. But definitely, I think there are those days where especially around Christmas, if I have a bowl of salted nuts or twiglets or something like that, I'm just going to be making sure that there's zero salt in anything else for the rest of the day. Goodness me. All right, lovelies, I now have been yapping on for long enough. This has probably turned into a really, 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 really long one. It was supposed to be a dead quick, short one. So, I will see you in a couple of days for some chopping and chatting and cooking. Then hopefully, because this bit, just the chatting bit, this has been perfectly doable and pleasant. Hopefully that means I can get on with making some videos. Now it's going to be like, is the editing going to be too much to bother with? Fingers crossed this means that in the next few days I will get back to some sort of schedule of getting videos out. So, this blueberries. Yeah, I'm going to love you and leave you there. And hopefully, fingers firmly crossed that this it goes, it settles down, it goes, it clears up completely. Obviously, if it doesn't, I'm going to go straight back to the doctor. It might be that I have to have a second week of antibiotics. We'll see. I remain hopeful. That's the best, isn't it? To remain hopeful. I will see you all again really soon. Until then, please, you look after yourselves. Look, I am looking after myself. People say, you need to look after yourself, Vivi. I know. I'm a grown-up. I do know. Don't laugh. I laughed last night at something and it started me coughing for about an hour. Only when I laugh. What was that? There was a TV show, Only When I Laugh. Was there a TV comedy show? It's before my time, obviously. Doesn't matter. I will see you all really soon, hopefully. So the next video you see was filmed a couple of weeks ago. So I look much better than I look today, but that was 2 weeks ago. The next video after that will be back to real time, so it might be me looking really grotty again. We'll see. I'll put some slap on next time. Until the next one, lovelies, please look after yourselves. And happy cooking, happy, inventing and getting creative in your kitchens. And I was going to say happy label reading, but it might not be happy. But yeah, I think we all need to just remind ourselves every now and again that, yeah, we probably should take a slightly closer look at those labels. I think especially for things like sugar and salt. Or, and that's even if you're like me, and I know tons of you are, that you do the vast majority of your own cooking. You're not using... I'm trying to think of examples. Like a sauce. Like cooking, what do they call it? Cooking sauces. So like, your tomatoey pasta sauce. If you buy that as a jar, in a jar or a tin, or like a curry type sauce, any of those sauces that you buy ready made, yeah, that's probably culprit territory, isn't it, for sugar and salt. Let's make all of our own, and then when we are, and we're using things like stock, get the reduced salt version. Because over the course of a day, I might want to enjoy something like some feta sprinkled on my stew, my Greek bean stew, that night. But if I'm already maxed out, if my salt is maxed because I've used the high salt stock, then I'm going to be like, So yeah, use the reduced salt stock, and then gives me a little bit of room to enjoy those kind of salty things I do like feta and Marmite. And anyway, Vivi, go away. I'm going. Heaps of love to you all, and see you again soon. Hopefully really soon, and on the mend. Until then, loads of love to you all. Cheerio.